Hello viewers, and thanks for joining me for another edition of Resource PNG. In this episode we showcase a series of interviews. We start off with Eric Ferrin, Vice President of Total Exploration and Production, who speaks about Total's strategic partnership with Oil Search to explore gas in 5 licenses, 3 offshore and 2 onshore, as well as the company's proposition for PNG and future plans.
Welcome to the show, Eric.
Thank you, Agna.
Now, Eric, perhaps for our PNG viewers, you would tell us a little bit about Total.
Total is the 5th largest oil and gas company in the world. We are involved from the exploration to the production of oil, the refining, the distribution with a petrol station, petrochemicals, distribution of lubricants, so all along the oil and gas chain on hydrocarbon products.
Right.
We operate in about 130 countries around the world, and Total employs about 90,000 people in all the segments I've described.
So a very large company.
It's a very large company indeed. As I said, it's the 5th largest company in oil and gas.
Right. Now, can you describe the recent deal announced between yourselves and Oil Search?
Yes. We came back through a strategic partnership with Oil Search, in which we have decided with Oil Search to explore for gas in 5 licenses, 3 offshore and 2 onshore. Total wants to explore for gas and after build a project with Oil Search to value this gas in PNG. So a project like the PNG LNG project, which is being built at the moment.
Right. So what's taken Total so long to come to Papua New Guinea, and why have you decided to now enter into Papua New Guinea?
Maybe I'll answer first another question, which is why we are not in Papua New Guinea before.
Right, yes.
Which is, the reason is simple, is that Papua New Guinea, like Australia, is very far away from Paris and from our traditional market. So it has taken us some time to come down to here. In 2005, Total came back to Australia, and today, 7 years later, Total is building 2 large LNG projects in Australia. Now in 2012, we come back to Papua New Guinea in partnership with Oil Search, and I do hope that in 7 years' time from now, we will be able also to sit down here and saying that we are building a project.
Yes, yes indeed. Now, what is Total's value proposition for PNG? What do you bring to this country?
A big theme for Total project is that wherever we go, in one of the 130 countries, we want to be a local company. So in PNG, we want to be a PNG company, recognized in PNG, and it's very important for us to build up the acceptability of all our operations.
Right.
Being in the exploration phase or in the production phase, we absolutely want to integrate with all the stakeholders. And in case of Papua New Guinea, we are going to put very much an accent on the partnerships we have with Oil Search, the landowners, the local governments, the country governments. So we need to have an alignment of all the people who actually have an impact on our activities or are involved in our activities, including our own staff, in order to make sure that we are aligned and we bring something to everybody.
A very good approach indeed. Now, the recent LNG prices, or rather the LNG prices spiked recently. How do you think this will affect the production of LNG in our region?
The price of LNG goes up and down, okay, like the price of oil. Recently it has moved, which is a good news because when it goes up for the project, because more project becomes profitable. But at the end of the day, what is important is that gas is a very clean product, which is what the world needs at the moment. Gas is a product which emits very little CO2 compared to coal or oil, and it's going to be a transition fuel for the future. So whatever the price is what is important is the quality of the product, and we think that especially in Asia Pacific, where there is a growth, the economy are growing, this product is going to be in high demand. We expect that over the next 2 decades the demand for LNG will double, and as such Papua New Guinea is very well located, close to the market, a bit like Australia, and with some resource hopefully, and Total is really here to discover these resources and with the involvement of the PNG people develop them in order to bring them to the market.
So what are your future terms in terms of investing in PNG and also Southeast Asia?
The region as a whole is very important for Total, who has created a region which is called Asia Pacific. And in this region we have been producing in Indonesia for the last 50 years, and we are the largest producer of gas in Indonesia. So it was very important region, and we are going to build up with some major projects in Australia and hopefully in Papua New Guinea if we discover enough gas to make one of these projects. Right. Total is going to invest in the next few years several billions of dollars per year just in Australia, and we are also present in Vietnam, in Thailand, in Myanmar, in Brunei, in Malaysia, in Australia, and now in PNG.
So you have some experience too in similar environments.
Indeed.
Eric Ferron, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Stay with us, we'll have Lava Resources next. We now feature an interview with Tony Williamson, Country Manager for Lava Resources, a privately funded company with Papua New Guinea mineral exploration rights to granted tenements and applications covering 41,540 square kilometres in Gulf, Western Highlands, Western and Sundown provinces. In this interview, we talk about Lava Resources, Lava's intentions in PNG, and his personal connection with the country.
Thank you for coming in today, Tony. Now, Tony, tell us a little bit about Lava Resources, what your intentions are as far as PNG is concerned, and your personal connection with PNG.
Well, Lava Resources is an Australian-based company out of Sydney. We have our office in the central part of Sydney, and our Moresby office is recently established, and I'm currently staffing that up. Next year will be a big year for us, looking for all the right people to take on board, and myself, I have a 15-20 year experience with Papua New Guinea in both the public and private sector.
Okay, and in what capacity were you employed there? Was it in the resource sector?
Oh, definitely. I'm a geologist by profession, so that's the best place for me in that resource sector, and I had quite a bit to do with the fiscal policies of Papua New Guinea as the Director of Mining for 5 years, so it is a familiar area for me to be working in, and Lava Resources is presumably capitalising on my experience as the country manager, and Papua New Guinea as well. I've done most of the work and exploration through all of the regions of Papua New Guinea and met most of the communities out there, so it's been a really interesting experience.
I understand one of your directors is also Peter McNab, a name that's associated with the extractive industries and certainly the exploration industries in Papua New Guinea.
This is true, Anya, very true. Peter is quite a well-known geologist amongst geologists, having been responsible together or by himself for the discovery of Lahir, and he promoted Misima and put Misima on the map, and Wafi, he was instrumental in the early days of Wafi. So it takes a long time to get prospects up to a stage where not only there are major projects but mines and post mines. So he's a very, very important member of our board.
Speaking of prospects, what are Lava Resources prospects at the moment?
Well, we've got a range of licenses through various stages of application. We have 10 of them are granted, and there's about 13 applications current. So we've looking on the southern side of the mainland of Papua New Guinea, on the foothills, which is a unique perspective. Not many people have been looking for copper and gold in those areas. So we have a little bit of a new concept, we feel, there. And that belt itself runs right up into the Star Mountains, which is real tiger country and elephant country, and that's going to obviously take a fair few of our resources, financial and manpower, to do it justice and carry on the exploration in the correct way up there.
What size of an investment are you looking at in the Star Mountains itself?
The Star Mountains itself, to do justification to an exploration program, Anya, it would be at least $3 to $4 million a year dollars, or you wouldn't be able to justify being there. And many of the projects in the highlands or in that region that's more remote have suffered from insufficient budgets. So I'm well aware that you need to progress the project, not only for the investors of Lava, but for the local communities. That frustration starts to creep in, and an annoyance that a project doesn't develop, and the discovery to development lead time in Papua New Guinea is extremely long.
Now, because of your previous connections with Papua New Guinea, what would you say are the barriers or the issues that face investors who are looking into the resource industry in Papua New Guinea?
There are many, and they've varied. I would counsel anybody, and we're very mindful of communication being a major component to any program. Apart from the technical aspects of being able to conduct the program, you have to have the social license to be able to go out there and do your program. And without that, whether it's at the village level, the rural level government, local level government, provincial government, I mean, you just can't come in on the back door. You have to come in through the front, meet the people at all the levels and get their approval to go ahead. Without that, there's no chance that you're going to have a proper project with a fair consultation, fair informed consultation process to be able to reach your target.
So you're in preparation stages at the moment?
That's
and
correct.
What does that involve at the moment?
Just doing what I just said. It's a huge communication exercise, and labelling the company. There's many competing companies in the marketplace for investor funds or for landowner retention, and I don't think that's the case, that you want to step wrongly in either direction. And so I'm just flown back from Telefomin. I was there last week doing a warden's hearing and meeting the people and sharing their concerns and hearing what their ideas of development are. So that's the sort of stage we're at. It's a consultative stage, and we're going to have plenty of time to get our teeth into the program at the right point.
Now, are all your licenses that you're applying for focused in the Star Mountains? Do you have interest in any other areas?
We do. It's the entire belt from, there is a newly, well, I think it's a newly recognised belt running from North Queensland, the volcanoes that run right from North Queensland right through the Gulf and running west through to the Star Mountains. So we've got licenses over all of that ground. It's, as I mentioned earlier, it's a relatively new concept, so there isn't much information prevailing in the libraries about this, so we're having to generate a lot of our own. But at this stage I've been examining what is available and looking at satellite imagery, and so we can identify some areas of interest. And this is quite good. You can see the goal workings from the local people out there, and so it's just a steady patient exercise to track this back, and that's what we intend to do. Participation with the local level governments is extremely important for us and for any company that's exploring in PNG. And in our case, we will try to participate with the projects that the people want at their level that they've developed through their local level government and the provincial programs that may be in place. So that's an extremely important part, to find out what programs are in place, how we can assist in those programs, not to the detriment of our primary objective of exploration, but such that we can facilitate the development in the area through a little bit of assistance in the education and health sectors, which is vital to a happy workforce.
What do you think overseas investors, how do you think their perspective of Papua New Guinea has changed, particularly the resource industry?
The longer that the investor has been exposed to Papua New Guinea, the more mature they become and the more patient they become. I think it is a land of opportunity, and I have many friends up there, many Papua New Guinea friends that are now millionaires. And it was interesting to hear the talk from the Prime Minister that there is appetite for participation at the Papua New Guinea level. And I think that's really interesting. And the investor has to realise that there's a mature level of participation available out there. But on the other hand, there's a hunger out in the village to be heard and participate. So it's a balancing act, and I think the longer that the investor is in Papua New Guinea, the more they become aware of the broad spectrum of influences and opportunities that impact on each project.
Do you think there's a more conducive environment? Are we a bit more politically stable? Do you think our workforce is upskilled and a bit more ready for those industries?
On the stability, it's always exciting working in Papua New Guinea. And I really enjoy the consultation process. It's always negotiation, consultation. There isn't a unilateral decision ever comes out. It can be quite scary sometimes because you hear a rumour, but that's a rumour, and often occasions it's no substance to it, and it's a matter of finding out who are the real decision makers and going to ask questions and find out what is really going on. So the stability, it's always been the same in my view.
Right.
It's daunting, but you just have to be patient and carry on, and nothing radical is eventually going to come out because it's not the Melanesian way.
That's right.
It's a communal affair.
It is.
After the break, we showcase an interview with Quest Exploration Drilling. In this segment, we have Alan Blackley, the Managing Director of Quest Exploration Drilling, QED. Alan speaks on his experience and background in the resource industry in PNG and the major projects QED is involved in. We hear his views of the current resource industry climate in PNG and find out how QED is looking at water management in a big way.
Welcome to the show, Alan.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Alan, give us your background in the resource industry, in PNG particularly.
Well, it's a long and involved story, to tell you the truth, but I went to Papua New Guinea as an 18-year-old driller back in 1969, and I went to the Freda River project and on a 6-month contract. And my first instance in Papua New Guinea, I stayed for 28 years. All the time I've been involved with the exploration drilling industry in PNG, and we worked on many projects.
Okay. And how did you start, or when did you start Quest Exploration Drilling?
Quest Exploration Drilling is the genesis of a company that I managed for all of my time in Papua New Guinea. We had many names, Sizecom Delta, United Pacific Drilling, etc. But in the latter years of my time in PNG, the business United Pacific Drilling was owned by Orica Explosives, and I was a GM of that business. Right. And I was tasked with selling it on behalf of Orica. They decided to exit the exploration industry, and we organised the sale of the business in Papua New Guinea to a management buyout, and the current management team of that business, United Pacific Drilling, still manage that business. Myself and a couple of other investors, we acquired the drilling assets of Orica in the Philippines, and we created what is now called QED in the Philippines in 2000. It was not until 2007 when Xstrata asked us to return to Papua New Guinea to work on the Freda project that we returned to Papua New Guinea.
Now, what major projects is QED involved in?
As I said, what brought us back to Papua New Guinea was the Freda project, and that was for Xstrata, and that was a very successful program. Since that program is finished, we have been working for Octedi, in the Octedi area itself, and also in New Britain, in the Highlands, Barrick or PJV, Porgera, worked for Newmont, Newcrest, and for a number of junior companies in New Britain, Owen Stanley's, all around the country, in fact.
Now, how do you view the current resource industry climate in Papua New Guinea?
PNG is probably a shining light, actually, in almost anywhere in the world. This current world economic climate has had a dramatic effect on the exploration industries worldwide. The junior sector, they're the guys that really go out and do the grassroots work and find the resources. They can't raise funds. It's almost impossible for them to raise funds, and those that do have money are reserving it or hoarding it to so they can survive. Right. So that sector of the market has diminished around the world, and we also work in the Philippines, Indonesia, Solomon Islands as well, and we've seen a dramatic downturn. Papua New Guinea in itself is going through a boom. It seems to be counter-cyclical. There's a lot of work going on here in Papua New Guinea, and there's a good reason for that. And of course, it's very prospective, and we have some wonderful deposits here in Papua New Guinea, and there are more to be found. I mean, Wafi Golpu is an excellent example of what can be found in this country, and there's going to be others as well. There's no doubt about it. Mount Kari, for instance, is finally getting the attention that it deserves. So PNG is doing very well in that area, and the thing about it is that the most of the clients here are multinationals, and they still have good cash flow from their operations. The price of copper and the price of gold is still holding up. So if you're producing, you still have a strong balance book.
Right. Now, you've touched a little bit on the current downturn elsewhere. Has that affected your business?
Oh, it has. Yes, it has. The junior sector probably accounts for about 40% of our business. And so have we lost 40% of our business? No, we haven't. Have we lost some business? Yes, we have. We've had to take steps to diversify and to move into other areas to maintain our revenue streams.
And what are those steps?
Well, where we can, we're moving into more mature markets, into what's called brownfield work,
right.
Where you'll work on existing mine sites, providing a different range of services. Water management, for instance, is something that we're now becoming involved in a big way, and that is basically either dewatering through large diameter water bores or horizontal drainage drilling for relief of the walls, the pit walls, and that sort of thing we're getting involved in. And then grade control drilling in mines, and just generally working where the mining is operating.
We continue the interview with Alan Blackley when we come back. Thanks for staying with us on Resource PNG. We continue on with an interview with the Managing Director of Quest Exploration Drilling, QED, Alan Blackley. Here he talks about QED's revenue forecast for 2013, upskilling their workforce, and discusses the strength of the company in the copper and gold market.
How do you see 2013?
I'm actually a little pessimistic about 2013, to tell you the truth. It's a matter of tightening your belt and making sure you've got the right people in the right place. So I guess the good thing about this downturn is that the last few years have been quite frantic in that it's been very difficult to obtain skilled people at a reasonable price.
Yes.
And now the worm has turned, so to speak, and it's a lot easier, not a lot easier, but we can go out and attract good people in the market, and we don't have to pay 2 arms and 4 legs for them.
Yes.
So that in itself has been good. It's also allowed us to really have a good look at everyone who works for us. We employ some 700 odd people. Have a good look at everyone who works for us, and then take those men or women who have good skills, good work ethic. They're tied into our vision of safety and productivity, and then give them additional training, and they're the ones who we promote and keep.
Right.
And so we've been able to sort of, not weed is the wrong word, but rationalise our workforce to a certain extent.
Right. And what's your perspective of some commentators have been mentioning the brain drain, that you're training people in the resource industry and they're going overseas out of PNG to work. What's your perspective on that?
I could talk about this all day. I really could. Seriously, it's a problem. It really is a problem. And as a company, we spend a lot of time and effort in training people to get them to a required skills level. And then somebody comes along and says, oh, we have a job for you in Africa. We're going to pay you 6 times more than you're earning here. Do you want to go? Well, I'd put my hand up and go too. And so you can't say to the guys, well, you can't do that.
That's right.
Of course you can. They have to go. So it's a continual investment in training. And we don't lose everyone because, you know, not everyone wants to go and work in Africa or Canada or Australia or wherever they go. Some people want to stay closer to their families and homes. So they're the guys that we need to identify and encourage and keep.
Right.
Funny enough, a lot of the guys that have left us and have gone off elsewhere, of course, now there's no work. They've all come back and said, oh, can I have my job back, please? And the answer is no.
No.
No. You've left. This guy here stayed. He's doing a good job. We're going to look after him before we give you a job. So that's how it works.
Is there any measures the state can put into place to stop that?
Look, I don't think so. We have a dedicated drilling academy, for want of a better word, in the Philippines. And the Philippines has been the market of choice for the attraction of labour. And as you know, there's millions of Filipinos working
Yes.
around the world.
Yes, there is.
And so that's where we've lost most of our people. Here in Papua New Guinea, we find that our people are far more loyal. You know, if you treat people right, give them good working conditions, give them a good pay, they'll reciprocate.
Yes.
And so the loss of our drillers from here hasn't been so high. Now, mind you, there are Papua New Guinean drillers working in Africa and wherever, and so they should be because they're very skilled. But we haven't seen that same degree of loss as we have, say, in the Philippines.
Right, right. Now, just briefly, Alan, your future plans, QED's future plans, say just in the next 5 years.
Well, I'd like to think that you know, I'm going to go on for the next 20 years or 30 years, but obviously that's not the case. What's going to happen with QED and what is our vision? We're a private company. Do we want to keep it private? I think that we probably do. So our strategy right now is putting in place a professional management team and giving them incentives to be able to run the business. And that also includes equity participation. So basically, keep the business running as it is. Maybe one day somebody will come along and say, well, here's $3 or $4, would you like to sell your company? And I'll say, well, make it 5 and we might do a deal. But as it stands at the moment, it's something that I'm passionate about. I love the industry, and I actually enjoy the drilling business, and I enjoy QED. I think we offer something that's a little bit unique in the sense that we're not a corporate business. Where we try to be focused on what is important to our clients, and that is productivity, safety, core recovery, and just doing a good job. And as I said, I'm still passionate about that at 61, and so we'll just see what happens in the next few years. But I see the next couple of years, until there's some sort of turnaround in the world economy, as being difficult. And so for us, it's just a matter of managing our way through those next couple of years until there's a turnaround in, well, probably never a turnaround in Europe, not for the next 10 years anyway. But we'll see continued growth in China, India, in Asia, and we're in the copper and gold market. That's what we do. We're looking for copper and gold in the Asia Pacific area, and those two commodities if you look at any of the projections, forward projections for supply, supply is diminishing. Now, demand, even if it stays flat, there's still a disconnect between supply and demand. And so you have to continue to keep looking for them.
Right.
And that's where we see the strength of our business.
Thank you so much for your time, Alan.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Alan Blakely, Managing Director of QED.
We'll be back with more of Resource PNG after this break. We join Paige McNeil, Managing Director of Quintessential Resources Limited. Quintessential Resources Limited is a dynamic junior mineral exploration company listed on the Australian Securities Exchange. QRL aims to explore and develop its highly prospective mineral properties in Papua New Guinea. Paige discusses Quintessential's core businesses, exploration projects, challenges and business highlights of 2012, as well as the company's future plans.
Paige, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Can you just tell us a little bit about your core business? What's your company involved in?
Quintessential Resources is a junior mineral exploration company focused on exploring its assets in the highlands of Papua New Guinea and also in Milne Bay province.
And tell us about the people that you employ and your operations in Papua New Guinea.
Well, Quintessential boasts a 93% PNG national employment list. We have a very small operation which is basically myself and just administration in Australia, and then everything else occurs from our Mount Hagen base and also our base in Alatau. All our funds are spent predominantly on exploring for porphyry copper systems and epithermal gold deposits. So we have very low overheads and we make sure that we are maximising the full potential of the shareholder funds.
So what's the size of your current exploration work?
We are starting drilling again. We've just completed a successful capital raising. So we start drilling at a prospect called Iraq, which is 100 kilometres northeast of the massive Porgera gold mine.
All right.
And we will start drilling some very high-grade copper in skarns. Our last result, which we announced on the 4th of October to the ASX, outline these skarns to contain 15.9% copper. That was the best grade, and complementary 303 grams per tonne silver, which equates to about 10 grams per tonne gold. So we're very excited to start drilling at Iraq, and in March we will go down to Milne Bay and commence our first exploration programs on our 2 tenements down there.
All right. So you're involved up in the highlands as well as Milne Bay, Mal and Tekam?
Yes, Mel and Tekam are part of the Bismarck licence in Enga. Our first drilling success came from the Tekam deposit, and we released those results earlier this year, and of course had a subsequent share price rise, which our shareholders were very happy about.
Oh, that's fantastic. And Aria River in New Britain?
Yes, we very recently, the Honourable Byron Chan granted Aria River. There's an exciting development happening on New Britain for Quintessential in the short-term future.
And what have you seen as the main challenges?
The main challenges at the moment for exploration companies would mainly be in sourcing funding. The global market is very difficult at the moment, but Quintessential has been able to complete this small capital raising successfully, but we need to be very careful with our exploration to make sure that we're utilising the funds in the most efficient way for our shareholders. The other challenge in the highlands that we have, of course, is mobilisation. It's a very remote area. And sometimes in these remote areas exploration is not fully understood by the landowners. So for us it's very important to continue to forge very positive relationship with the landowners moving forward so that they can understand what it is that we do. Exploration is very different from mining, and therefore you have to be quite patient because it takes time to do the work to prove up a resource.
Right. Now, your company is said to have discovered world-class deposits. Can you comment on that?
That is our aim, to discover world-class deposits. PNG hosts many world-class mines, and so where our tenements are located is very prospective for world-class deposits. However, it's exploration. We haven't found the mother lode yet, but that is what our work is to do.
Right. Now, what would have been the highlight of your business during this year?
During this year, Quintessential listed on the Australian Stock Exchange in August 2011, and we were listed as number 7 as the top IPO performers for that year. That was mainly due to the high-grade gold we drilled and discovered at the Techem gold prospect. We need to do continued work at Techem, but we're moving a little bit south to see how far that mineralisation continues to another prospect called Kunapali. What shareholders, what the message we're trying to communicate with Techem is, yes, we've found some high-grade gold close to surface, but because of where it's located in the highlands, we actually need a much bigger resource to look further to development. So we have to do more exploration, more drilling to increase that basic resource that we have, so we can turn that into an inferred and then an indicated resource, and then you'd look at development.
Right. I suppose geography would be one of your big challenges too.
Correct, but we are explorers in Papua New Guinea. That is our core business, so we are fit for the challenges of operating in what is difficult and remote terrain.
So, company's future plans, where to from here?
We have planned a 4-hole program. We're drilling between 300 and 400 metres on these skarns. And we hope that we are able to test the depth extension and the mineralisation of these skarns, which look like they are between 30 and 40 metres wide. I guess the other key asset of Quintessential is we own and operate our own means of exploration. So we own our own drilling rigs and our supporting heavy equipment. So therefore we can drill when and wherever we want in a flexible manner without having to rely on contractors.
Right. What have been the flow-on benefits to the communities that you're actually based in?
Okay. Well, we, as well as engaging national drillers, geologists, field assistants, cooks, we also engage local landowners, and we do that on a 2-week rotational basis. So we have a crew of about 30 come in, work for 2 weeks. Of course, they stay at our camp and are fed. They do their work, they're paid then, and then they swap with the next group coming in for another 2 weeks. I am also, my passion is education, and we have been able to collect educational resources from Australia and send them up in containers with our exploration equipment, and we have delivered them to schools across from Mount Hagen and through Enga in those communities that don't have those resources. That has been a very humbling experience, because they've been very appreciated, not only library books but textbooks, mathematics textbooks, and anything from pre-primary resources all the way through to year 12. So we've been very fortunate to have a good relationship with the local schools that we can continue to move forward and help them in their plight.
That's wonderful news, Paige. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.
After the break, we talk to Numinco Group Limited. Welcome back. If you've just joined us on the show, so far we've talked to various exploration companies involved in PNG's resource industry, from the likes of Total Exploration and Production, Lava Resources, Quest Exploration Drilling, and Quintessential Resources Limited. In this segment, we find out more about Numinco Group Limited. We join Anya Geno in an interview with the Managing Director, Tracy Late.
Tracy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Anya.
So nice of you to make time to speak to us. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about your company.
Yes, Numinco Group Limited is the parent company of Numinco Limited, which is a Australian incorporated subsidiary but registered in Papua New Guinea. Uminco Group Limited was listed on the Australian Stock Exchange in August 2011, and I joined the group in November 2011.
Right.
So I've had 12 months of visitations to New Guinea, and very simply we're a mining and exploration company.
Okay. Any particular projects you want to mention and your operations in Papua New Guinea?
Yes, Anya, we've got one existing mine, which is a number of mining leases at the rather historic Edie Creek location in the Morobe
Right.
goldfields. In fact, we're neighbours of Hidden Valley mine. They adjoin us there.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a number of exploration licences, one at May River, which adjoins the Freda River project, and one at Bollabip, which is about 60 kilometres east of Octedi.
Right.
In those projects, as at Edie Creek, we have a partner called Mincor Resources NL. They're a successful Australian nickel miner, and they're entered into a farm-in, what they call a farm-in and joint venture agreement, whereby they spend money on the exploration and they earn a percentage of each of those projects.
Okay.
We have two other exploration licences also, one at Kabuna, which is very close to the Tolokuma mine, and another one, an exploration licence application at Laloki, which is an old copper mine.
Okay. So exploring for
Copper gold.
for copper and gold, right? So you've been operating in Papua New Guinea for over 12 months?
The company's been operating at Edie Creek for about 7 years, but in May last year, after the joint venture was entered into with Mincor and a proposed listing on the stock exchange, the mining activities, which were more of an large alluvial scale mine, were put on care and maintenance.
Right.
So they had been operating for a number of years, but at a loss, and there were up to 250 staff. That's now down to about 50 staff there. And the exploration out at May River and Bollabip's being conducted by Mincor and our geologists.
Right. So speaking of staffing, how many people would you employ in your operations?
We have 52 in Lae, Port Moresby and at Edie Creek. Lae, we have an office warehouse, a couple of very good ladies, nationals in the office, a couple of drivers there. I have a very good lady in Port Moresby, looks after the office there, and we have a host of camp services, geologists, drivers, etc. up at Edie Creek, and most of those are local people.
Okay, okay. With the mention of local people, what do you contribute to the community? Are you involved in the communities that you're in?
We are. Our land is traditional Biangai land and Kuka.
Right.
So we have relationships with two groups. One, the Biangai Development Corporation, who represents the Biangais, and the Kuka Development Corporation. And we, at the moment, prior to going back into mining, we have a relationship with them whereby we contribute on a fortnightly basis to assist them with their administration, with running a motor vehicle and things like that. In addition, some of our local settlers who've moved into the area, Edie Creek had been mined since the 1930s. So there are even second and third generation people from tributers and old miners there. So we do have quite a few settlers around the mine, and what we've been doing, we've provided a clinic. We've recently built a new house for a medical officer that will be provided by the local government, and in addition we've put water tanks up there for on either side of the mine to try and help the people that way as well. Obviously, if there isn't an emergency, we have access to the Hidden Valley access road, which is a very good road down to Balolo, so in the event of an emergency we take people down there to hospital, and occasionally if there's a death in the family we use the ambulance to transport
So do you think the local community has a good perception of your company?
Well, it's been, I think like most mining companies, it can be difficult at times. Since I've been involved, we've worked closely with the MRA, Mineral Resource Authority, and the Morobe Provincial Government and we're going to work closely with the local government as well to try and bring in a long-term resettlement plan. A number of these people have had a number of moves around our mining leases, and I understand, I'm sympathetic that if they could have some land, which the provincial government's having a look at, somewhere around Wau or Balolo, then we're going to try and work in closely to assist in resettling some of these people. But generally the relationship is good. We've been going through a process of getting the settlers' assets valued with the government valuer.
Right.
That's been going on now for about 3 months, and we've actually made settlement payments to about 60 families. We have about another 130 families in and around our leases, and the purpose of that is because it's dangerous, we're drilling, there's heavy equipment, some people are still living within our leases, and some had been removed from the leases some years ago and hadn't received compensation. So what we're doing is going through with the nearly 200 families, having their assets valued, and then we've been going through settlement processes, and that's been going very well.
So with, you say about 200 people, is that for
Families.
one particular area?
About 200 families. So
Okay.
yeah, we would have probably 1,500 people in the immediate area of our mine.
So do you actually have processes in place for this that involves dialogue with the local level governments or the villages that they're in?
Yeah, very much indeed. And there's ongoing difficulties or issues to resolve between the traditional owners, which are the Biangai, the Kuka-Kukas, who have hunting and gathering rights. So whilst our relationship with each of those is good, when we go back to mining, we'll need to implement a memorandum of agreement where those two parties also agree as to the percentages of any business development and other opportunities that go towards them.
Right.
But generally the other settlers, we hope if we go back into mining, and that'll be dependent on the exploration results. There is gold and silver at Edie Creek, but the question is, are there economic and an economic mine there that's viable for us to go back into production?
Right.
So hopefully that will be the case. The exploration program's underway now and a drilling program. By probably March, June next year, we should have a reasonable indication as to whether we continue drilling. And hopefully then we can go back and, like our neighbour Hidden Valley, which employs I think about 2,200 local and community people, we can do the same. So
one of the issues I imagine is relocation, the resettlement of people. What are the other challenges that you face doing business, particularly in these remote areas?
Transport. We're a little bit lucky that we have access to the Hidden Valley access road. Without that it would be extremely difficult. Likewise for the communities that have settled around the mine, there is really only employment through our camp. So there is unemployment, which is an issue. Obviously if people have got time on their hands, alcohol can be a problem. We're trying to work with those communities, with the government, if resettlement is an option that they're happy with and we can find suitable land with the government, then we're going to work closely with them to try and give them a new start closer to education, medical facilities and infrastructure, because in the remote areas that's one of the real problems.
Right, right. Do you find that there are procedures in place for support, I suppose, of exploration companies such as yours at that level? I'm not asking about the national government, but at the local level.
Yeah, very much so in Morrabie province. I can't speak for the other provinces, this is the only one I've had any experience in, but we have had a terrific level of cooperation from the provincial administrator and his staff. And the landowner issues and resettlements are largely provincial government issues in finding suitable land, in contributing to resettling the people. So no, we've had very good cooperation, and I need to work in more closely with the local government We have sponsored local school sporting events, but in terms of resettlement, we want to try and get the local government, the provincial government, and of course the MRA and the national government where possible.
Positive sentiments. Thank you for your time today, Tracy.
Thank you very much, Anne. You've been a pleasure.
That's all we have for tonight on Resource PNG. If you have any queries or suggestions, or simply want to know more about the program, do email us on this address, resourcepng@mtv.com.pg, or check our MTV online, that's www.mtv.com.pg, and go to our Resource PNG page. Until another edition of Resource PNG, have a pleasant evening.